All right, man, peace. So, brothers, Jimmy Butler, the standout star shooting guard slash small forward, formerly of the Minnesota Timberwolves, has finally had the trade finalized to the Philadelphia 76ers. And of course, he sat down for the press conference and he decided, like most top-level NBA players do, to engage in a little trash talking pertaining to his former team. It wasn't malicious at all, but he basically fed into the overall NBA paradigm where when a star player changes teams, he starts talking about how he's looking forward to playing his former team. And this is a paradigm, a program that has been going on in the NBA since the days of Wilt Chamberlain, who was the first great player to go from team to team. A great player goes to another team, and then the NBA builds up when that great player finally gets to play against his former team, and it's supposed to be this huge theatrical, dramatic event, so on and so forth. I remember when I was a child, it was, how is Charles Barkley going to fare the first time he squares off against the Philadelphia 76ers? Then it was, how is Shaquille O'Neal going to look in his first game against the Orlando Magic? So on and so forth. It's been going on for time immemorial, especially in the NBA. So anyway, Jimmy Butler, he sat down and he basically let the Minnesota Timberwolves know that they're the enemy now. So they're going to talk about it. I'm going to chime in.
Tibbs is my guy. The world knows that. You know that. It was hard going through that with Tibbs, but you know he knew what it was for the most part. I have so much respect for him, the organization, the players that they have.
Jimmy Butler stuck in 1990. My man got the double hoop earrings, the huge dreadlock flat top. Like he is straight out of 1989.
It just didn't work out. You know, that's part of it. It's part of the business. It's part of life. I still wish them the best. You know, I still talk.
I don't know why these guys, when they leave their former team, they talk about how they still wish them the best. No, you don't. Because if you did, you'd still be there. You hope that they crash and burn. That's what you're hoping for, brother. Stop lying.
Talk to those guys. I will continually talk to those guys.
Yeah, you're going to continually talk trash to them when you play against them. Especially Andrew Wiggins and that soft-ass pussycat Karl Anthony Towns.
If any of them need my help, I'm always try to help them to the best of my ability.
Bullshit. You tried to help them when you were there. They didn't want to listen. Now you're gone.
But, you know, when we go up against them, they're the enemy now.
I like to hear that. They are the enemy. That's good for theatrics. The NBA, as Shaquille O'Neal stated, means nothing but actors. All these guys are actors, but it's good. It's good to build it up.
Welcome back to The Jump. We are now joined by one of our favorites, Nick Friedel, who covered Tibbs and Butler in Chicago and then covered Tibbs and Butler in Minnesota and now covers the Golden State Warriors. So we'll discuss your travel life and upgrade and personal dealings a little bit later in the show. But right now, look, Tibbs tried to make this work. He took the gamble that even after...
No, Thibodeau tried to make it work because he understood what it was going to mean, what the ramifications were going to be if it didn't work. That being that he most likely is going to lose his job. Once again, I have no idea why Thibodeau was hired in the first place. I never thought that he was a great coach. To me, Thibodeau is exhibit A of a great defensive coordinator or offensive coordinator. In this case, in regards to basketball, a great defensive coach who tried to be a head coach, and he's not that. He does not have a strong enough personality to be a great head coach.
After Jimmy asked for a trade, he could make this all function together. He was going to get them through at least up until February. Are the Wolves better off, worse off, now that all came undone?
In the short...
I think that the Timberwolves will be better off in regards to their overall psychological team profile, particularly Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins. They'll be allowed to relax. The question is going to be, will relaxation be a good thing in regards to how that possible relaxation is going to result in victories or potential victories? Because Karl Anthony Towns and Andrew Wiggins have yet to show that they can be leaders on an NBA team that is successful. So that's the conundrum that Mr. Tom Thibodeau is in. And that's a very good look that he has on his face that I have freeze framed right here. Because this dude looks like he has to take a serious shit. And as I've stated in a previous video, Tom Thibodeau always looks like he has to take a shit. And I think it's because he knows that his career is about to go down the toilet. I really think that's what it is. And like I've stated, he just does not have the personality to be a great head coach. What do I mean? Do I mean that he's not tough enough or rough enough or gruff enough? No, I'm not saying that. What I mean is that he does not have the ability to exude enough charisma to get players to buy in to a lot of his coaching ideologies, at least not for very long.
Short-term, Rachel, yeah, they're better off because the cloud is...
Look at Tom's face. You guys just won't run the pick and roll right, and I have to take a hellacious shit. Call timeout.
Out is gone. It was miserable in that locker room. Everybody was unhappy. They knew that situation was untenable. In the long term, hell no, they're not better. Tibbs was holding on to Jimmy because he knew that once Jimmy went, that was it.
Thank you, sir. I've been saying that for the longest time. Thibodeau understands that his career in regards to his future in Minnesota was directly linked to Jimmy Butler. He was hoping that Jimmy Butler would buy in so that the team could be more successful, so that therefore Thibodeau could keep Glenn Taylor, the owner of the Timberwolves, off his ass. And that was not going to work. It was not going to work. Because the apple of Glenn Taylor's eye is Karl Anthony Towns. And Karl Anthony Towns, to me, he comes off as that big titty bimbo who's an airhead and really does not have much to offer other than her looks. Right now, Karl Anthony Towns looks like the type of player that you think you want to build your team around, but he's not that guy. I'm sorry, I just don't know too many players who learn how to be dogs. Normally, it's a dog who learns the skills of a great NBA player. You have to be born a dog. Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Isaiah Thomas, Larry Bird, they were born dogs. Kobe Bryant, these guys are born dogs. You can't make somebody a dog. And Karl Anthony Towns, I just see no dog in him at all. So they're making a mistake, in my view, thinking that they're going to build a team around him.
And as much as I love Tibbs, as much as I love Jimmy, I think Tibbs is gone at the end of the year.
No doubt about it. He might not make it through the season.
If not sooner, because I don't see them making some grand turnaround. And for Jimmy, he's got to prove that he can fit within the framework of this new locker room.
Well, this new locker room is going to be a litmus test for the future of Jimmy Butler's time in the NBA. Because at the end of the day, he's not a superstar. He's not a LeBron James. He's not a Kevin Durant. He's not a Steph Curry. He's not somebody who's going to be a transformative player on your franchise. So this is going to be his third team. And if on his third team he still falls out with his teammates, the scope of the rifle is going to be placed on his forehead. The crosshairs are going to be placed on his forehead. It's like I've stated about Shaquille O'Neal in the past. When he was in Orlando, he fell out with Penny Hardaway. Then he went to LA, he fell out with Kobe. He understood when he went to the Miami Heat, I have to make this relationship work with Dwayne Wade, because if it doesn't work, not only is it going to cost me the opportunity to win a championship, but it's also going to validate the previous two relationship issues that I had with the previous two superstar wing players. So Shaquille O'Neal realized that he had enough self-awareness to say, you know what, D. Wade, you be the lead guy. You take most of the shots. I'm good.
Because this dates back several years in Chicago with locker room issues with older guys, with younger guys, right, and the same issues in Minnesota the last year and a half. So everybody has something to prove. But as far as Tibbs goes, no, Tibbs is better off now.
Let me see. They had a playoff drought of how many years before they made the trade?
13? How many years?
13 years. So they made the trade for Chicago. Jimmy Butler comes over. They make the playoffs. Right? And then this year they come in and it's just, a big cloud over this team because Jimmy Butler sees two of the stars get paid max dollars and believes.
Jimmy Butler just needs to find a team that has an overall psychological outlook to playing the game of basketball that is very, very similar to what he has. That's why I think that the Miami Heat would be perfect for him. Philly may be perfect for him. But the issue with the Philadelphia 76ers is going to be they have two young players who have their eyes set on being superstars. And those two players, of course, are Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons. Jimmy Butler has his eyes set on getting a max contract. So there could be a problem there because Joel Embiid is already on record as stating he wants to be the MVP of the NBA. And Jimmy Butler is already on record as stating that his issue with Karl Anthony Towns is that Karl Anthony Towns is a me-first player. He's a stat player. So their relationship is going to be something to watch.
Is that they don't really play up to that potential because of whatever reason. The personalities just don't match. Jimmy Butler is a alpha dog, is outspoken. These two guys, their star players, can't handle that, so it calls friction. I I don't think he's better off without Jimmy Butler.
You know, the main problem to me in regards to the issue, particularly between Karl Anthony Towns and Jimmy Butler, was not even so much that Jimmy Butler had that alpha personality. I think that Jimmy Butler was waiting for Karl Anthony Towns to challenge him for the supremacy of the team. Because Jimmy Butler has the mindset of a wolf. His attitude is, I'm the new wolf in the pack, and I want to be the alpha, and whoever the top guy is going to be, we're going to have to see in practice. And either you're going to show me that you're tough enough to lead this wolf pack and I'll follow you, and if not, I'm going to lead. And Karl Anthony Towns has shown that he is mentally fragile. I don't care about how much he screams after the loose ball goes off the other guy. I don't care how much he screams and howls after he gets a block shot. He's a poser. He's not an alpha. He's not a leader.
He needed somebody in his locker room to get on these younger players when they're not playing up to their potential. You need veteran players to get on these guys. So now you don't have anybody to voice their opinion when these guys are just going through the motions.
But I asked Jackie this yesterday. I asked Nick this in the hallway at the arena last night. Shouldn't a team that has Karl Anthony Towns, who is as talented as we all know he is?
Well, you know what? Rachel Nichols' talent is great. But if it's not matched with drive and zeal to be great, oftentimes talent can be something that can hamper you in the NBA as much as help you. Because if you're extremely talented but you're soft, everybody's going to look at you as a waste. They're going to have actually less respect for you than they would for a less talented player who would fall under the radar. So Karl Anthony Towns is going to find himself being at the epicenter of a lot of scrutiny over the next few years if he does not find a way to galvanize himself to take advantage of all of the gifts that he's been given. He's 7 feet. He has good feet. He has a great jump shot. He's very nimble, great rebounder, all these things, but he's soft. And if he does not find a way to be able to controvert that, which I have a hard time believing that he's going to be able to do, he's going to be another NBA might have been.
And Andrew Wiggins, who just max extended.
And forget Andrew Wiggins. Andrew Wiggins, he just floats out there on the court. He don't even know what the hell is going on.
In this rookie deal, shouldn't that team be at least a team everyone thinks should make the playoffs?
Yes, I agree with you.
They need a real point guard, though. That's what the Minnesota Timberwolves are missing. They're missing leadership at the point guard position. That's why I've stated Damian Lillard or Kyrie Irving will be perfect for them.
Do you think they will make the playoffs?
I don't think so.
Minnesota will not make the playoffs this year. There's no way that they're going to make the playoffs.
I'll tell you.
I picked Sacramento to make it over them, and I don't even think that Sacramento's going to make the playoffs.
I'll tell you what, the one thing that I would worry about if I were a Minnesota Timberwolves fan is I think you're right about Tibbs. I think this was a bad sign for him that Glenn Taylor handled all these negotiations.
Of course he did, because he realized that Thibodeau was just playing games. Once the Miami deal fell through, Glenn Taylor was like, what the hell is going on here? We have to move this guy. Because number one, Jimmy Butler, no disrespect to him, but he's not worth the headache. He's not a good enough player to lead you to a championship. So why are we dealing with this bullshit? And then on top of that, we have a pretty young thing here in Karl Anthony Towns, proverbially speaking, who is not being allowed to bloom and grow. So one of them have to go, and we already know who that is. Karl Anthony Towns is 22, 23 years old. Jimmy Butler's 30 years old with knee problems. And even though he has an alpha male personality and mentality, he does not have an alpha male skill set. He does not bring alpha male ability onto the basketball court. I don't care how hard he plays. So we knew what the answer was already. Glenn Taylor already figured out this guy Thibodeau is trying to hold on to his job, and he thinks that if he keeps Butler, that I'm going to keep him as a coach. Well, he has another thing coming. Butler's going to go, and then he's going to go. And I said before this season started that they should have fired Thibodeau. I said that during last season because it was very clear to me that he had no idea how to communicate with Karl Anthony Towns. Karl Anthony Towns is a player that you can't have him out there believing that he has to go out there and die for loose balls just to be the primary option in the offense. Karl Anthony Towns is a player that you have to make him the primary option in the offense and build up the little bit of alpha male quality that he has that way. But if you're constantly trying to challenge him for every little thing and you're constantly trying to tear him down, he's not going to respond to you in that way.
So you want Karl Anthony Towns to be your franchise player and its star. How many coaches are you going to cycle through there before you settle on one that's going to help this young man develop?
Right.
Because it matters. You need stability in a franchise.
Yes.
And they don't have it. And Karl Anthony Towns has to accept responsibility for some of the things that he hasn't done. But there is so much he can do.
Once again, Karl Anthony Towns' talent is going to be the bane of his existence while he's in the NBA if he does not find a way to equal out his mental approach to the game with all of his physical gifts, because people are going to continuously say Karl Anthony Towns is so talented, he's so gifted. Why is he unable to lead his team to playoff berths? Why is he unable to advance past the first round? Once you get to the NBA, it's just a series of challenges and stumbling blocks. It's not just about the women. It's not just about the money. It's not just about the fame. They're going to have very, very high expectations for you at the end of the day. And at the very least, you have to show that you're willing to be the front man, to be the leader, to be the general, to lead your troops into combat. You have to show that you're at least willing to put up that front. And when I saw how he conducted himself in the playoffs against the Rockets last year, I knew that he had none of that. None of it.
I mean, at what point do you just settle on something and stick with it?
Well, I think it's interesting. You had the situation in Detroit where they just got rid of Stan Van Gundy, and we have varying reports on whether they offered him to just be the coach or whether they just said, no, this isn't working. With the Clippers, we saw that once Doc agreed to let go of that overseeing president role and could just coach, he's been a great coach for that team.
That team is...
There are very, very few coaches in the NBA who can handle the duty of being both the coach and the general manager. Very, very few in the history of the NBA, as a matter of fact.
For the last couple
really
seasons.
Fun, young, and exciting.
And so I don't know if Tibbs would ever agree to relinquish the front office powers and just coach. We'll have to see how that goes, but there's no question that there's tumult there, and Glenn Taylor, as you said, stepping in is going to be a factor.
Right.
I like how Nick laughed when I suggested possibly he would do a Doc Rivers.
Tibbs relinquish anything, Rachel.
I know. I want to talk about your new...
Well, no, he's not going to relinquish anything. He's not going to have to, because he's going to be fired. So we'll see how things go for both Jimmy Butler as well as the future of the Minnesota Timberwolves, who I believe should try to find a way to move Wiggins if they can. Or hell, maybe even possibly looking to move Karl Anthony Towns if they can. And just start over. Because to me, it's not going to work. And Karl Anthony Towns, in my view, is not someone that you can build your future around. But who knows? Hopefully I'm wrong. Hopefully I have deduced incorrectly pertaining to what his overall mental approach is. So peace.